Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to have a bit of a talk about the Islamic call to prayer that is proposed to be blown throughout our societies in the middle of the Sydney region. Is this something we actually want in our society? We all have freedom of religion, we can believe whatever we want, but is this going too far? Where the Islamic call to prayer is able to be broadcasted through loudspeakers throughout the Sydney areas 5 times a day. This is actually in a development application before the local councils in Sydney. Is that going too far? Should we have other people's religion broadcasted through speakers forced upon us every single morning you wake up? Or should we be putting a ban that, yes, everyone has freedom of religion, but that does not include taking away other people's freedom? We should have the freedom not to listen to loud broadcasted religious audio through society as we navigate our mornings. So let's have a listen. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Just talk about another story here, because it goes to the heart of this whole question of multiculturalism and monoculturalism. And you know that here in Australia, in Western Sydney, the Lakemba Mosque has been putting through a DA to try and get loudspeakers up to broadcast the call to prayer on Fridays. Well, in Denmark, their immigration minister has announced plans to ban the Islamic call to prayer, claiming parts of the country felt, in the minister's words, like, quote, a suburb of Islamabad. Now, the incredible thing to me about this, Caleb, is that this isn't one of the hard right leaders of Europe. This is a member of the center-left Social Democrats. I think this is absolutely fascinating to look where Denmark is going on this, while the left still has a very gooey idea about, multiculturalism being all, isn't it great we get all these cuisines?
Indeed.
There is so much more to culture than just food. When you wake up every single day, we should be able to navigate our environment without other people's religious beliefs being forced upon us everywhere we go. We've all seen, and I'm not sort of playing devil's advocate here, but we've all seen around the world how Islamic beliefs have occurred. There are too many people having their limbs chopped off. There are too many executions. There are too many terrorist attacks. Our own ACO in the Australian government have even broadcasted that there is definitely going to be assassinations here on Australian soil in the foreseeable future.
Detail, because I'm gravely concerned by its temperature and trajectory. An Iran-run group orchestrated a wave of attacks across Europe earlier this year. Most were low-capability attacks involving us and more rudimentary incendiary devices. Most targeted Jewish interests, but all were designed to fuel fear as part of Iran's anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic agenda. Iran continues to view Australia as a legitimate target for covertly directed acts of violence. And we assess there is a realistic possibility the group that's been active in Europe will expand its networks to this part of the world.
These are not Buddhists doing this. These are not Jainisms doing this. These are not Christians doing this. These are not Jews doing this. There is only one culture that seems to be set on the trajectory of obliterating anyone that does not share the same belief.
And the left has to be very careful. They obviously have not realised that the rest of us have woken up. I don't know, they're obviously not looking at the One Nation polling numbers and realising that something is wrong. And of course, someone of the centre-left, as you say, running a policy like this in Denmark, it comes down to the fact that if you are of the left or you are of the right, if you want to maintain the country that you live in and the culture that you live in, and of course we know the left in Australia does everything it can to break it down, but when push comes to shove, if you want to continue to enjoy your democratic rights and freedoms, you have to make sure you protect that. And Islam is not just a religion, it also includes a political doctrine. And so what some people are saying anyway is that you have to restrict that to some degree if you want to hold on to what you have.
Well, Caroline,
Exactly. Here in Australia, it is our great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents and grandparents that fought in World War I and World War II to prevent the invasion and takeover of the Australian continent. Now, why should we give that up? We did that on the Western Front so we do not fall as a nation to socialism and communism and dictatorship. Democracy is the reciprocal acknowledgement of each other's human rights without the expectation of each other having to give up their human rights and give up their religion in exchange for another religion. So we owe it to our great-grandparents, our grandparents, to maintain our sovereignty of our country and to not give in to this sort of dictatorship that if you do not believe what I believe, then we simply get rid of you. That is not a religion. That is called a cult. So anyway, let's keep going.
And this is really interesting to me. I'm really thrilled you're here because in Singapore, when you have a Singapore's background, you know, they have a very interesting approach to this here. And it is a multi-ethnic society, but they've taken serious steps to make sure that they don't have what we have in Australia, which is you have huge swathes of suburbs that are entirely or predominantly dominated by one ethnic group or another. And you know, they obviously, you know, they're not exactly shall we say, a libertarian paradise.
No.
But, you know, it does show you where to maintain that harmony you have to go.
Well, I mean, the fact is, yes, there is a cost to that. There is a clampdown on freedom of speech, of protest, but by the same token, there is a very tough approach on crime. They're extremely hard on it. So if you were to plot, I don't know, a terror attack or actually, you know, attempt to be violent against another group, they would come down on you hard. You would be in jail. You would probably, if you actually tried to plan a terror attack, be caned or killed.
Well, and not only that, they also have a pretty hard line on graffiti. And I really...
So what do you guys think? Should we be standing up against the Islamic call to prayer being broadcasted through the Sydney streets, which is currently under a development application, so it could get approved? And if it does get approved, that means these speakers will be extraordinarily loud 5 times of the day through the Sydney streets, impacting every single person's life. Our ancestors did not fight for the freedom to have Middle Eastern Islamic doctrine under Sharia law being forced upon us. They did not give up their sacrifices, so we will conform to another religion. And that's what it is. It's a dogmatic religion that dictates that you will conform to their religion, their belief system, or you face the consequences. And I don't think there's anything controversial about saying that, because it is a very important public affair that we all need to openly discuss, because it is already affecting all of our lives. We are Australians, we are laid back, we are very tolerant, and we go about our business each day with relatively peace and calm, trying not to affect other people's lives. But all of the nonsense that we've seen overseas, all of the problems that we're seeing coming out of Melbourne, as well as New South Wales, these are issues that we're going to have to confront and we're going to have to push back against, because in the interests of all Australians, we need to stand up against the Islamification of our Australian societies. Let us know in the comments what you think. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one.